First up with Kane Cornes, thanks to Sportsbet. I'm Sarah, Olle and Kane. The Dogs' finals chances, well, they're still alive after surviving a few mini heart attacks at the MCG against the D's. There was plenty happening in that final term.
Yeah, it was all happening as we take a look at some of the big last quarter moments. So, I mean, it was a pretty good effort to hang on in the end. They kicked 6 goals, 4 goals straight late. And the Demons had some spirit. You thought, oh no, is this going to be another one that the Dogs let slip? That from West was unbelievable. Some of their better players just stood up when they needed to, including Aaron Norton, who kicked 5. He had 17 touches and 9 score involvements to continue his rich vein of form. Couldn't believe they put the young first gamer in Jed Adams on Norton. That was a mistake. But what about that man? Sam Darcy had 8 in the last quarter. He had 4 score involvements and took that Nick Revolt-like mark running back with the flight in the dying stages of that game to hold on and get them a much-needed win. It was that sort of round where Fremantle just had to win. Adelaide just had to win. We'll get to them shortly, but there was some heart-in-mouth moments for those contenders, and it just goes to show that maybe it is still a reasonably even competition if you are not fully switched on and ready to go.
It's certainly wide open for the premiership race and the top 4 spots, that's for sure. I thought the Dogs really separated themselves today, Kane, in the midfield, particularly at centre bounce. And this is coming up against a D's engine room that was once much vaunted indeed.
They used to have a good midfield, Melbourne. That used to be their strength. And on paper, they still should. This was a smashing. So 15 plus 15 in clearances in total for the Western Bulldogs. They kicked 3 goals from centre bounce. So in the end, this is the difference in the game. And this is despite Max Gawn winning the hitouts 50-32. So I'm looking at the names. I mean, Windsor is in there, so he's inexperienced, but largely it's Pickett, it's Viney, it's Oliver, it's Petrarca. You can see the 3 there. That's Petrarca, Oliver, and Viney and Gawn. And they just get walked through. So Ed Richards was unbelievable, his game today. What a season he is having. So 14 clearances for Ed Richards, 14 clearances, 15 score involvements. He had the 31 touches and kicked 2 goals. Bontempelli does what Bontempelli does. And Tim English is in really good form. So that was an enthralling battle with Max Gawn, and I'm really liking Tim English's work around the ground and his ability to push forward. But what's happened to Melbourne's midfield? Their strength is completely gone and eroded, and it's one they're going to have to look at the end of the year, because these are the guys they've invested heavily in, big contracts, long-term contracts, and they're the leaders of the footy club who just could not get it done today, and that cost them the game.
Well, it was our first look at the D's post Simon Goodwin's sacking, the rather spectacular sacking on Tuesday. We don't know who's going to replace him, and we're not going to hypothesise today, Kane, but what's the first port of call for whoever it is that takes over the reins? Is it that midfield working it out?
Yeah, probably. And I think the personnel, the playing. So the biggest calls are, is this the group that you are going to stick with? Where do we see this group? Do we think it's a genuine finals contender? By the sounds of it, they do, because when they sacked Simon Goodwin, they said that. So if you think that, then you top up and you go again in the trade period. If not, you take a step back, you perhaps trade some big names or put them on the market and go through a mini rebuild that's going to take, 3 to 4 to 5 years under a coach with some patience. Or you go the other way and you pick a coach that's ready to go for the now, and you are hoping you get that instant bounce. That's up to them and their list management crew to work out where they see this group in terms of the rest of the competition, and can they genuinely compete and win a final with this squad next year. That's the first decision they've got to make.
Now, if you thought the way that game unfolded at the MCG was strange, you just had to switch over to the game at Optus Stadium, because 18th was leading first with 10 minutes into the first quarter, the last quarter, I should say. Kane, this was extraordinary. The Eagles in 18th challenging the Crows in first, but in the end, they do move Matthew Nick's team a game clear on top of the ladder.
Yeah, what about this goal from Darcy Fogarty? Tackle. You got to tackle there. Darcy Fogarty just walking through the Chester bump, which cost them, and some of their better players really stepped up as well for Adelaide. I'll get to that shortly, including Isaac Rankin's second half, as good and as big as you are going to see. Kick that goal to we'll put them back in front, and then from there they were experienced enough to ice the game. Phil Thorpe kicked 2 big last quarter goals, including that one from outside 50. He went down earlier in the game, which we'll get to in a moment, but that was the one he kicked from the goal square. Good experience from Adelaide, but it was a genuine scare. Like with 11 minutes to go in the last quarter, this game was genuinely up for grabs. I thought the Eagles' spirit was outstanding.
Mm.
I thought their pressure was enormous. I thought they rode on the wave of the crowd and the momentum. They laid 70 tackles. It's been probably a while since an Eagles side, a young group, has laid 70 tackles with some big names out of that side. So it's amazing what you can do if you apply the pressure, even to the good sides. I thought their crowd was phenomenal. Like the Eagles crowd, I think they're the best supporters in the
They
league.
turn
They
up every week,
continually
don't
they
they?
turn up, Sarah. They're unbelievable. Regardless, they turn up. There's nothing fair weather about the Eagles supporters. If that's, I don't know, if that's the St Kilda team, they drop
Mm.
off. If it's Richmond, they drop off. Port Adelaide, there was 30,000 there last night. They certainly drop off. Essendon fans have dropped off. Eagles fans don't drop off. And not only that, they were in full voice. And I thought the players sort of thrived on that energy. They got some good young key position players coming through, including Shanahan, who kicked 3. So I like the look of him. So it was a really good effort and almost 18th beat first, which hasn't happened for a while.
Extraordinary. There was a scary moment, though, earlier in the match, Kane, involving the Man Mountain, Riley Thilthorpe. He gets collected high by Liam Duggan. In the end, he plays out the match. He kicks 2 goals, including a massive one in that final term. But Liam Duggan, you would think he's got a case to answer for there, Kane.
Yeah, it'll be a matter of how severe they rate the contact. The fact that Thilthorpe came back onto the ground and kicked 2 goals is clearly going to be in his favour. But you opt to bump in Duggan, you're in trouble. I did like, look, it's hard to comment on the medical aspect of footy teams, but Dr. Susanna there, just the way that he put Thilthorpe through his paces there, they had a number of shots. I thought they were really thorough with that, and they made sure he was genuinely good to go. Clearly, they had to put him through the initial concussion test as well, and then the worry for the neck, which is always really concerning whenever you have spinal or neck injury. So pretty well handled. They put him back on, and in the end, he had a big say in the contest. But yeah, not a good one. A nasty one. Could have been much worse. And that there was a cutaway to Matthew Nix in the box. He had his heart in his mouth. Their finals hopes resting on their big star key forward. Not sure they can win it without him, but good news. It'll be sore tomorrow, but look good, and I don't suppose there'll be any problems for next week against Collingwood.
Earlier in the day, in the nation's capital, the Giants, they cruised past the Roos, and at 3/4 time, Adam Kingsley's side, well, they raised the bat. That's my bat, the pen there, Kane. They'd had the ton, and it was the 11th time this season that the Roos have conceded 100+ points. I feel like it's deja vu with this side.
Just the 11th time. I don't know what more I can say about this aspect of North Melbourne, other than to say that in a round where some of the weaker teams showed genuine effort, and I thought Essendon showed genuine effort with half a side on Friday night. Like they had a genuine crack. I thought, as we've just discussed, West Coast had a genuine crack. I see Melbourne have a genuine crack today. I saw Port Adelaide have a red hot dip. And I see the game over at halftime once again. And there'll be all the excuses in the world once again for North Melbourne. And they'll be accepting of another 100+ point thrashing. And nothing ever changes, as we've just shown in that graphic. So until they want to bind defensively, they're going to be a very ordinary football team. And unfortunately, it's taking far too long, and a lot longer than a lot of us expected it would.
And this was their coach, Alistair Clarkson, post-match.
Fundamentally, we've got to fix up those errors and limit them. Every side makes them. Just when you're a little bit more inexperienced, you might make a few more. So we just got to. But that'll come with more exposure to the level, and we've got a lot of guys playing through the middle of the ground, right across our ground, really. That is still learning the game, and with that comes a little bit of inconsistency. But as I said, we're a little bit better than that in the second half.
Half
Yeah,
the
I mean,
Roos
he's
fans just
accepting
hearing the same, isn't it, Kane?
Same excuses, and that's been the case for a long period of time. I'd love just for him to get just a little bit angry and a little bit nasty and a little bit of, no, this isn't acceptable. So it was minus 40 points from stoppage. His excuse is that we've got young guys learning the game going through the middle of the ground. Really? Like, this is where you've invested everything. Every draft pick you've had, essentially, other than Dersma, has been into the running type midfield players. So today, Sheeds was in there. He played a lot of footy. Sheeds was best and fairest when he was the captain today. Does he get an excuse for still learning the game? Does Luke Davies-Uniacke on $1.2 million per season, one of the highest paid players, does he get an excuse for still learning the game? Does Tristan Sherry still get an excuse for learning the game? Everyone tells me he's in the All-Australian calculations. Does Wardlaw, like Wardlaw's been around for a while now, has a genuine dip, 6 clearances. Does he get an excuse for, does Powell, he's been around for it. There's Parker. Like, this is where all your chips have been invested, not only with contract, but draft picks. They get beaten by 40 points from stoppage, and Clarko's telling me that the players going through the middle of the ground are still learning the game. If you're going to compete in one area of the game, it has to be the midfield. So I don't get those excuses. And just defensively as well, it was 33 shots from 56 entries, and this is the record in Clarko's first 3 seasons in charge, and there's been no change, unfortunately, for North. They say there's been some improvement, but the ladder position would tell you otherwise. And I think, along with Michael Voss, Alistair Clarkson is the coach under the most pressure at the start of 2026.
17th and 17th. It's looking that way anyway. And just a reminder that Richmond has North Melbourne's first pick at this year's draft. You're on a roll, Canes. So it's time now for Volcano.
I am on a bit of a roll, and I've been impressed by Adamuze this year. I was quite critical of him last year. I thought it was a bit of a wasted year. I thought he was a little bit like what we've just discussed with Alistair Clarkson. He was a bit forgiving for lackluster performances. There's been a harder edge about him this year, but that doesn't excuse him for the tactics that we saw yesterday at the MCG. And these are tactics that I would actually, if I was on the board of Richmond, be asking the coach how we can let number 7 run around there when we know the history of this guy this season and what he has done to break the hearts of the opposition team. So Nasai Wanganeen-Miller is clearly the player I'm talking about. 21 disposals and 472 metres gained in the second half. And you tell me if there's any Richmond player going anywhere near him. So this will actually raise questions, and I think David King may have already asked these questions of, are you actually genuinely trying to win with this tactic? So Wanganeen-Miller against Melbourne, we saw what he did. Everyone has seen what he's done. And you would think that there would be a Richmond player, particularly with the experienced midfield that they've got, actually putting some sort of attention or going anywhere near him. But this is what we saw in the second half. Sarah, there's no one anywhere near that guy. So what is Adamuze doing? Now, remember, this is a coach that allowed Nick Dacos to have 42 and kick 3 goals not that many weeks ago, and they opted not to tag him. I don't get this. I don't understand it. If I'm on the board of Richmond, as I said, my first meeting is with Adamuze on Monday going, hang on, just explain to me how we allowed this guy, a top 5 player in the league this year, a player who's done it before, to run around with no one on him. I don't get it. So that's my volcano this week, and I'm just not sure you can defend that.
Oh, Richmond have been pretty good all year, given the young list, but that vision is damning given what we know Nazaya Wanganeen-Miller is capable of. Just when it comes to the young Saints season, is it possible, is it conceivable, Kane, that he could win the Brownlow medal? He'll be coming home with a flurry.
Yeah, I said this last week. I think he will. I think he's going to be right up there. Now, have they won enough games will be the question. But I look at Anderson, and I think, well, Rao's been pretty good. Like Rao, I thought got the 3 last night, if not for Ben King, and Anderson was prolific. So will they share the votes? Nick Dacos has probably trailed off recently, didn't get the coaches' votes last week, certainly wouldn't have got them on Thursday night against Hawthorn. And Nasai has been the talk of the whole AFL industry in the back half of the year. So, yeah, I don't think it's a ridiculous call at all. In fact, I'd be shocked if he's not certainly getting a place in the 1, 2 or 3 position.
It would be incredible if he's off to another club and he's raising Charlie a little later in the year,
awkward,
wouldn't it?
Brownlow speech, wouldn't it, if he decided to leave at that point of the year.
Very, very unusual. I'll tell you something that's not awkward, though, is the way the Dockers are finishing games. They're making an art form of coming from behind, and it was their skipper, Alex Pearce, who was captain clutch late, Kane. And I think we've seen this before, haven't we?
We have definitely seen this before. So this was him just with ice in his veins slotting. I love that. That's probably my favourite player of the year, I reckon, for him to do that, because we know that he's done it before. It's a bit of a weapon. So look at the time on the clock. This is round 11 last year, where he went forward and put the Dockers within reach with that goal after he'd taken that mark. And he just thought, okay, well, Connor Rosie with 2 minutes to go, the skipper from Port Adelaide, has just curled one around from the boundary line to put Port Adelaide 6 points up with a couple of minutes to go. I'm going to go do the same. I thought he was enormous. The leadership that he's shown. I love their back 6. I really do. I think it's their biggest strength. Freo. I thought Cox on Georgiades was a great duel, but I thought he was terrific. I like Chapman as a player. Clearly Ryan's an All-Australian, if not multiple. And then Clark is in All-Australian form this year. So it's a really nice balance. And Pearce, if he can stay sound, is crucial to that. But what a moment, what a captain's goal to keep their genuine top four hopes alive.
What about the balance of their forward line? Jai Amos, he's had a pretty good month actually. 10 goals in the month prior to last night came, but he didn't see much of it, did he?
This was his first touch with 8 minutes to go in the third term. Had some nice-ish moments after that, but do they have to make a call is the question. And I know some teams are opting to go very tall, including Hawthorn, but Jackson, Voss, Tracy, Amos, Darcy, is it too tall? So here's the trail off of his form from 24 to 25, and pretty much every key statistical category is down, including shots at goal and goals. Inside 50s probably means he's not working up as high on the ground. That's the only question. Now, I know it's late in the season to be changing your lineup, and I thought it was a sign they didn't sub him out. They opted to sub Dudley out. I thought with Amos, just with the one touch late in the third term, they might have subbed him out. But Justin Longmuir may be pretty solid with his setup, but I think it's a question worth asking.
And when it came to the sub, Nat Fyfe, some really beautiful scenes post-match with him and Travis Boak swapping jumpers. There's so much chat around Fyfe and his involvement in the side. What did you make of his performance? Because he had some key moments, particularly in the middle there.
Yeah, I just thought it was important to praise his performance because I thought he had some really crucial touches. Now, he's not the breakaway player and doesn't have the athleticism that he used to, but G had some crucial. I thought he was clean. I thought he was, showed his experience under pressure, and he had a real impact. So I don't think he can do this for 4 quarters because the problem for Nat is he's got nowhere else to play other than the midfield. That's where he's best, and all this vision is in tight, around the clearance, in the phone box, nothing out in space, and he's not confident to kick the footy. But as a first possession, clean hand player, I thought he impacted the game. And if he didn't play, I don't think they win. So it was a good selection. I never thought we'd see him play again after he did that soft tissue injury when he was sub at halftime and wasn't able to even enter the arena. But he's back and had an influence.
Can you see him remaining as the sub, particularly in finals? I mean, what if there is a situation where he has to come on really early in a game and play almost the full 4 quarters?
It's a good question. And I guess it will be dictated to around Hayden Young. I think if Hayden Young is fit and firing and can go for 4 quarters, then he probably takes that spot. And you probably go with more of a runner, more versatile player who can play multiple positions as your sub. So I think the fitness of Young is crucial to them finishing top 4 to potentially making a prelim final. And that probably, dictates and reflects on Nat Fyfe and the role that he'll have for the rest of the season.
A result I didn't see coming at the Gabba yesterday afternoon was the Swans getting up by 2 points over the Lions, who have some issues down back with personnel. But up forward, you want to highlight Charlie Cameron, the small forward who is usually so electric, Kane. He's been anything but lately.
This was his numbers in that game, and they're very underwhelming. And I feel like I've spoken about him a lot this year and put him on notice right from the start of the year, to be fair. And he's just done enough to maintain his position in the side. But I think now it's at the point where if it's early in the year, I think he goes back to the VFL. That's how dire this is for Charlie. So games without scoring a goal since joining the Lions, there it is, 2025, 9 games. 3 games in a row with no goals or less. And it was the undisciplined stuff as well. Free kick against, 50-metre penalty, and the lack of defensive pressure. So there's an attitude. There seems to be an attitude problem with Charlie. Clearly he's frustrated, but you can't let that affect your body language, and that he's doing that. So Chris Fagan is the most loyal coach. Like, he will back his players, even if they have 6, 7, 8, 9 bad games in a row. He's done it with Hipwood before, and he usually gets the result. Like, to be fair to him, they usually respond at some point. But just on numbers, on form, on performance, Charlie deserves a spell in the VFL.
And just on numbers, the Lions have slipped now to 5th, that top 4 spot, very much in jeopardy. And they've got Fremantle and Hawthorn to come. I mean, could you see a world where this side don't make finals?
Probably not. I think there will be a response. I think they beat Fremantle this week, and that will just ease the nerves a little bit. Like that, they really should be going to Perth and beating Fremantle, as much as it's a long trip, but they're good enough to do that, and they should. And then the Hawthorn game, I think they probably start favourites, but it's a bit of a flip of the coin. So Who would know? There's no point doing a ladder predictor because no one would have
I
seen
still
Sydney
do
beating.
it.
You still, well, you're going to have to do it almost every day of the weekend because the results
I
change so
do.
often. So I'm
I
not,
do.
I'm not bothering. I'm just sort of saying you got to get to 60 points and then we'll see what happens after that.
Time now for the temperature test, thanks to Sportsbet. And Kane, there were
It's
plenty
just
of
wide
teams at the top
open.
of I was going to say at the top of the mountain, but you've only got 2 up there now.
Yeah, I think Adelaide and Geelong are in the box seat. 1 and 2, they'll finish. And then this is the most open season you've ever seen. Nothing would surprise me. Like, if you told me the Western Bulldogs win the premiership, I wouldn't even blink. I wouldn't be surprised at all. You told me the Giants win, I wouldn't be surprised at all. Any of the 9 can win. So I don't know. I sort of give up. That's the enthralling thing about a pretty disappointing season on the whole with the poor performances we've had from the bottom 9. But gee, it's about to get fun from here on in.
It sets us up for a cracking finals series indeed. That's been First Up with Kane Cornes. We'll see you next week. Thanks to Sportsbet.
What's gambling really costing you? For free and confidential support, call the number on the screen or visit the website.